Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond the Field, the official podcast of the Drum Major Leadership Academy, sponsored by the Band app. I am Andy Fassbender. I produce the podcast here at DMLA. I've been on a couple recent episodes, but normally I'm behind the scenes writing down timestamps and doing all that cool, fun stuff. I'm also on the marketing team here at DMLA. I was a trumpet in 2017 and 2018 for Legends Drum and Bugle Corps out of Kalamazoo, Michigan, and then I was a drum major in 2019 with my best friend Jack Murphy, also for Legends Drum and Bugle Corps out of Kalamazoo, Michigan. And I was supposed to be doing that for 2 more years, but COVID. But what can you do? Today we are going to talk about our tour experiences, but you need to meet the other 2 people who are also here right now. So Madison, take it away. Tell us about yourself.
Wow, how do I lead with that? You're just so experienced. Hey everyone, my name is Madison Rudy. I am a part of the leadership team for DMLA. I have done 2 seasons of drum corps as a drum major for Southern Knights Drum and Bugle Corps. It was a DCA corps. I'm currently a section leader for the clarinet section for the Marching Southerners in Jacksonville, Alabama. And I have just been doing band for a couple years and have had some fun experiences, so I'm just glad to be here.
Hello everyone, my name is Milo. If you don't already know me, I am a drum major with Blue Devils B, and I have been since 2019. And I'm also an instructor here with DMLA.
It's truly a spectacular group we have here tonight to talk about. Honestly, something that I feel like doesn't really get talked about a lot, which is like the actual DCI experience. I brought this up at our summer leadership camp last weekend, but just the fact that, like, to a lot of young people or people who haven't marched, DCI is, unless you have friends or like family who have marched, DCI to you is Lucas Oil Stadium clips. And I feel like that's honestly like part of like what gets a lot of people to like actually go and try out, is because they're like, I want to go do that. And that's great. Like, I'm happy DCI is doing that because it's spurring, participation. But at the same time, us 3 are here to tell you, I'm on the East Coast, the Midwest, Milo's out on the West Coast, and Madison was in a DCA group. So kind of, lots of different perspectives for you here. It's different. It is different than that. Obviously, I'm sure you 2 will agree, like, performing Lucas Oil is like a very, very big, portion and an important step of your tour, but it's not really everything. I think a good place to start, just to like kind of like dive into what we're talking about, is, and either of you can answer this to start and we can all talk about it, but what is something that really surprised you your first season out? If you need a second to think, that's okay.
I have something. I think what surprised me the most about drum corps, which can be looked at as a positive or a negative thing, was just how much you practiced. Like, I guess coming from, from high school band, going into college band, you're like, oh, whatever, practice, have band camp, have practice after school. But drum corps is like, no, you're going 12 hours a day or more or less, and you're going at it. And it's a lot of fun, and you learn so much in terms of marching, technique and music, but you learn so much in that amount of time, and it's such a great experience. But I think going into it, I guess in a DCA perspective, because I was like, oh, it's just DCA, it was a lot of practicing, and I guess I just was like, whoa, that's a lot, but so cool at the same time.
A big part of what surprised me is that it's not immediately everyone is 100% perfect. When I first looked at DCI, when I first saw these videos of, Lucas Oil Stadium, when I first saw, like, Metamorph and all of that, it looked like 100% perfect, but that's not all of it. There's rehearsal. There's a lot of rehearsal time that goes into that. There's a lot of practice, and there's a reason for that. So not everyone's going to be, like, 100%, like, clean, perfect the first day you get there. So don't feel very threatened.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people fall into that trap. They get there and they're like, "Wow, I wake up and my soul hurts. Like I'm so sore. Like I don't know how many more PB&Js I can eat. This, this, that, and the other. And it's like that's just honestly like that's just how it is. Um, to add on to that, like it really surprised me. Like I don't want to say burnout, but more like fatigue. Like, when it's, and this is more a DCI thing, but like, your first like week of spring training, like by the end of the week, like people are like, oh my gosh, like I'm now doing the thing. Cause your first like couple days, you're all giddy. You're like, ooh, I'm doing jump core, like, wow. And then like day 7, like, your family's calling you and they're like, so how is it? And you're like, I don't know, man. I don't even know what we did today. I gotta go eat and go to bed. Like, okay, like, and that's not to like discourage like anyone who's listening. Like, that's part of the fun is like getting through like that beginning stage. But like, it really does like get to that point where you just you're still enjoying it, but like you become robotic and you're in a healthy way. You're like counting down days until laundry day. But that sounds kind of like doom and gloom, but. I mean, hey, when you're doing, particularly if you're staying at like the same like spring training site, or even mid-season, if you're staying at the same housing site for like 3 or 4 days, like it gets tiring, especially when you're used to moving around, or like before you're actually in drum corps, you're used to like you can do whatever you want with your day, you can go wherever you want. Whereas when you get into drum corps, it's eat, sleep. I mean, you're gonna have block dreams. You're gonna wake up in the morning, like hop into your shoes, like I don't like. For people who are listening, Madison and Milo are laughing because like it's true. Like like it really is just that's just the reality of the situation for sure.
Oh, 100%. It has its ups and downs. It gets tough. And, I would go to bed at night. Luckily, I got to sleep in my own bed because I live near Concord. But I'd go to bed and I'd be like half asleep and I'd still hear the Met ringing in my head, and it would have like the echo of the gym that we were inside, and it would go on for hours and hours and I couldn't sleep. But yeah, 100%. It gets tough. It's not all going to be, sunshine and rainbows. There's a lot of, work that goes into this.
I definitely agree with both of you. It is definitely tiring, but it's worth it, like Andy said. So I have a question for you two, because you guys did DCI, and I never performed in Lucas Oil. The only time that I have ever performed in Lucas Oil was for my college band, because we did BOA. Like, we were like the showcase or whatever at the end. But how was that experience, since it's kind of like the end of it, I guess, or I don't really know. I'm not big on, like, I don't watch a lot of DCI, but I don't know the end of the season. I don't really know. But how is that experience in terms of when you get there, and how your nerves feel and all that kind of stuff?
Are you talking about finals? Well, considering that
yes, yeah.
season that BDB had in 2019 was a little bit short, we didn't necessarily go to like finals, but we did have a final performance. And let me tell you, the weirdest feeling is when after you've completed your final show, and then you think, dang, I learned a show that's like around 11 minutes, and suddenly I'm just never going to do it again. I mean, not in a good way. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like I spent so much time working on that, and now it's just gone. It's kind of heartbreaking, really, but it's always fun to have the last show. I feel like that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, speaking, I totally agree with like just, yeah, literally poof, like you're walking out of the field and you're like, okay, I go home in 2 days, like, I don't even, we can talk about this later, but like the first day back, like we can talk about it near the end, but like that's always just like, whoa. But speaking to the Lucas Oil experience, definitely unforgettable, like that's for darn sure. And the experience that I had, like my first 2 years, was just so vastly different than from when I was a drum major, because we medaled at open class. But my first year, I was, you're going to the parking lot and it's like, it's really crowded. There's just corps just doing their thing all around you. You go to Garfield Park, you warm up, you bus back over to the stadium, and there you are. And then like you walk into this like loading bay, and then you walk through a little tunnel, and then there's indoor warm-up rooms in case it rains in that tunnel, and then you keep walking, and there's bathrooms. There's like a huge table filled with like hundreds of cups of water, and some cores will say like don't drink the water because it'll mess you up, but that wasn't really a thing with us. And then there's a bathroom, so you have one more chance to go to the bathroom, and then you walk down the tunnel, like the hallway before the tunnel, like they have a tunnel cam, and you can see yourself. They have a monitor facing towards you that shows you walking on like the live stream tunnel cam. So some people like whatever, and then you keep walking, and then there's a bunch of like banners hanging like in the banisters from DCI, like encouraging you, saying like you are like the world's best performers in this sport, like have fun, this, that, and the other. And then you turn the corner, and like it's just there. The field's just there. And I remember my first year, I was like shaking, like I couldn't even like I could barely walk like onto the field. Like I'd been waiting for this for so long, and I didn't even stop shaking until we played our first note. And that was shocking too, because I'm sure you both have played in venues where if you've wherever performer where the sound just gets sucked away from you and you can't like hear what you're doing. But like Lucas Oil is like an out of body experience. Like you are playing and you hear nothing. Like you can like barely even tune. You can't even hear anything. And the big thing for me is in 17, I mean, we were loud all 3 years I was in Legends, not to brag or anything, but in 17, our first chord was really, really loud. And I remember playing that first chord, and we released, and it was clean as nails. And I was like, that was awesome. I can't believe I'm finally doing this. This is so cool. And that was interrupted because it reverbed off the ceiling, and it came down like a sledgehammer. Like I've never experienced anything. So it was like, bah! Off, and it was silent. And when you hear people like, and I was like, this is so cool, this is cool. Boom! Like just like the hugest noise like I've ever heard. And I was like, it like shocked. I was still like marching and stuff, but it like really, really shocked me. And so like after you get past that, like when it's your second year, you're like, oh, welcome back and stuff. And we made semis and stuff, so we went multiple times. But my third year, like we got to go be at retreat because we were in the top 3 like for open class in 2019, and that was like so chill. Like we literally we were just in full uniform, just like walking around the stadium, and people were like, oh my gosh, like I love your uniforms and stuff. And that was really cool, just to be able to, instead of being in like full performance like pants pooping mode, to just be in like chill, like this is cool, and I get to like really take in this experience of like being in the stadium. And it is, I mean, people complain about it like being old and stuff. It's not even that old. Like it's genuinely like a pretty nice stadium. Sorry, that was like really long. Do any of you have anything to add to
Well,
that?
I'm sure anyone who has performed before knows that feeling, that like shaking, hard to breathe feeling. Everybody gets that. And that's another thing that I wanted to talk about. A lot of times, you see people on those big screens, you see them on flow marching, they look 100% like calm and collected. Inside, they could be flipping out. It's all about the image on the outside, but you don't really know what's going on in people's heads. So it's totally normal to be nervous. Don't feel bad about being nervous. Don't feel bad about being scared. That's completely normal because you're in front of like 1,000 people, thousands of people, and you're performing something amazing. And it can be like a combination of excitement and fear, but that's totally normal.
Yeah, and there's really a difference between like fear of like genuine fear because like you're terrified, like because you don't know what you're doing, and fear because you're nervous because you're about to play. And if you're in front of a sold out Lucas Oil, you're playing in front of 10,000 people. Those are two different kinds. If you've never experienced that, like those are two different kinds of nerves, and it's a really, really
Yeah, a lot of things people are nervous about is stuff that they care about, so that should be a good sign.
Speaking of like to like the end of tour and stuff, and like we've talked about like, oh, Lucas Oil is cool, and just decent positive experiences, and we'll get back to that. But is there anything like, I don't want to say negative, but is there anything like not quite ideal about your season that you feel like is something not to like scare people away, but something that like people should be aware of?
I got you on that one. Speaking of PB&Js, and being tired of eating sandwiches, I feel like now, after a couple years of having drum corps, a lot of corps directors are like, we probably should give these kids some good meals. So recently I've seen a lot of corps getting some pretty decent meals, but at DCA, we only have weekends of practice, so we only have 2 days of a weekend. And we don't have a lot of time for us to eat lunch or like to go and eat lunch, or if we have like a late practice or show, they give us dinner, and most of the time it was pizza or a sandwich, and there was like no in between. And I think I was kind of surprised of that, I guess, because you're paying a lot of money, and you're paying a lot of money for transportation, but you're also paying that money of like uniform and just so many other things. But I guess like when you walk in, you're like, huh, okay, well, I'll take a sandwich. I'll be thankful. It's food. I need energy. But I think that was like one like little negative thing. I was like, I really wish I had like a piece of chicken or like something like that. But like I said, I think that now a lot of corps are able to get that money and really help their people out. But that's one thing that I could think of off the bat.
Something that I could think of, I would definitely say, okay, I guess this counts as more of a move-ins kind of thing. The way we did move-ins for BDB is pretty different for most other corps. We didn't stay in a gym for spring training or anything like that. We actually stayed in either like a place you'd get on your own or within other people's houses. I volunteered to house people. And don't flip out because this isn't normal, but I housed 14 people. And I volunteered for that. And it was mostly the tuba section. But my house was great. It was super awesome. It was super fun to have people over. I really enjoyed it. But I did hear about some like stuff going on at like other people's houses because, some people didn't necessarily get along. But, people being with other people, that's kind of inevitable. You have 150 people organized in a bunch of houses. There's gonna be a line taped on the floor somewhere, which actually did happen. But that's one thing that I could think about with, something that you don't really expect would happen, but it did. And I had to like take in a few people that didn't necessarily like where they stayed, but that's totally fine. I volunteered for that, and we had the space. It was great. Yeah.
And it's even one thing when you're doing like that is even tight quarters, and yeah, that's a breeding ground for people having issues and stuff and all that. But like even with a traditional gym style, which is like what I did for all spring training, you still get issues. Like I mentioned earlier, like people get fatigued and like staying in the same spot for so long, like and you're stressed and you're tired, and it just happens. And adding on to that, like I feel like just overall, like just mental preparedness and strategy and just the overall like feel of the season for some people, like some people, and this happens at every corps, some people get like 2 weeks into the season and they're like, I like don't think I can like this. Like I have given this a shot. I really thought this was something I really wanted to do. Some people, they reach the conclusion that they don't want to do anymore because they've gotten hurt. Some people maybe aren't having as good a time socially as they thought, or they thought like it wouldn't be, as we talked about, like, both, Madison and Milo both said like there is a ton of rehearsal, and they're not kidding. Like some people are just genuinely like not cut out for that. And that's not insulting in any way, shape, or form. Like some people just, they realize like, okay, I thought this was me, this is not me. And that's why, typically when you see these world-class corps, these open class groups say, we have holes, we have trumpet holes. Chances are someone either probably got hurt or somebody was like, had a long talk with their staff and their admin team and ultimately decided, this is not for me. And that's hard. Like that's a hard thing to decide. And you don't really, you don't really see that, but it happens. And there's a lot of people that also have that talk that get convinced to stay. And maybe they ultimately end up liking it, and maybe they still hate it till the end of the season. But that's to be seen. The food thing too, yeah, Madison. Like, I think that's kind of like, I'm hoping that's kind of like changing now. Particularly as we're moving it past, like 2016 and all that crazy stuff. But yeah, I can definitely heard plenty of stories about that.
Yeah, most definitely. I kind of want to add on to what you were saying about people's personalities in terms of being fatigued. I think that going into it, you have to really think about that people are different than you. And you have to really think about their personalities in terms of how they're going to react to things, and are they going to be able to be like, oh, I got this, or are they going to be complaining the whole time, or are they going to be negative the whole time? And I think like you said, you really have to mentally prepare yourself, not just for yourself, but for how other people will react, because if you are consistently in a place of negativity, it can definitely rub off on you. And so I think, like, having a chance, like, especially, like, when you're about to, like, go to sleep, or, like, even if you're in the bathroom, or, like, eating your food, like, just taking a second and, like, breathing and just being like, I got this, like, I'm here for a reason, like, I want to do this, and if people don't like this, that's them, but I'm going to try to be positive. And it's a very hard thing to do, but, like, you don't want your experience to be ruined by someone else's attitude. And I think that's, like, super hard to do. But I definitely think, going off of that, it's a great experience to be able to, like come at the end of it and see the light at the end of the tunnel, and just be like, I was able to, like, control my emotions. Like, that's so hard to do. Like, you were able to overcome, like, anything that was coming at you, whether it be another sandwich for the week, or another hard floor to sleep on, or whatever. You're able to come at the end and be like, oh my god, I experienced all of this, plus I came out of it in a positive attitude. Like, that's pretty freaking cool. So that's what I would have to say about that.
Yeah, and people have horror stories with, like, moving in with their random roommate for their double in college. You're moving in with random people, like 149 random people from all over the country. Like, when you get your roommate in college, you're going to the same school and stuff, and it's only one person. Like, when it's DCI, like, maybe this isn't necessarily, and hopefully they change their opinion on this, but maybe this isn't necessarily the core that this person wanted to be in. Maybe the core isn't what they expected in terms of culture. That's also, like, a really big thing that no one talks about. Like, a huge thing. Like, that's another reason people drop out, is because they're like, wow, I hate the way people act here. I hate the way the staff is. I hate the way the admin team is, and they leave. And if they're not comfortable, whatever. But yeah, I mean, yeah, just look at what's happening. People have problems living day to day, even being away from the room for most of the time with one person. You are living and constantly in contact with 149 other people. And even if it's, like, smaller than that, even if it's, like, 50 people, if you're talking about, like, a DCA group or a smaller open class group, like, it's still, it's really, really hard. Hey, yeah, go for it, Milo.
And sometimes it's a long-term thing, sometimes it's a short-term thing, sometimes it's even just that day. It can be really, really hot out, everyone's sweating, everyone's tired, it's a long rehearsal, you're doing, like, run-throughs already, and people are tired. There's, like, I've been in other groups, and, like, even BDB, like, people get tired, people get cranky. That's normal. You're struggling, you're working really hard. But sometimes it's not even just a long-term thing, sometimes it's just that moment, and then someone who's been just fine all along will just snap that one day. But things like that come up. It's inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, speaking to the tiredness, like, there was a day where it was our first full ensemble in 2018, and I just hadn't, like, slept well the night before. And please, like, no one take this the wrong way, I was perfectly healthy, I was being treated fine, I had no problems. I was like falling asleep like during warm-ups. Like I was standing up, falling asleep. And we got 9 hours of sleep a night at Legends. We got 4 meals a day. We got to eat as much as we wanted. Like this was not a Legends thing. This was a me being fatigued thing. And on the walk over, I like talked to the staff. I was like, hey, I just need to like sit for a second. And they're like, oh, they're like, yeah, man. They're like, and then the trumpet tech was like, why? And I was like, oh, I was like falling asleep during warm-up. And he's like, oh yeah, like go. He's like, go. And then like I rested up and I got into full-ons. I had a great time. But like, yeah, no, I mean, and I was seasoned. I was a seasoned, well, second year vets. All the memes about that. But yeah, it's a lot. It definitely is a lot. You know what? Enough of the negative Nancy stuff. Unexpectedly fun and delightful portions of tour. I'd love to hear any. And I'm for people listening. Like I'm springing all this on them for the first time. I didn't like discuss this with them prior, so this is like organic, like first things that are coming to their mind about. We had all the negative things to say. Not even negative, but important stuff. Now we have fun things.
We've talked about bad interactions with people. Now let's talk about good ones. There was a kid that sat behind me on the bus. His name's Christian. And we got back on the bus from a show. I believe it was that time. And he handed me a Starbucks pastry, and I said, "Thank you very much. Like, I will eat this." And so I started eating the Starbucks pastry, and he leans over the seat, and he's like, "I found that at the show site." And I was like, "What? I already ate half of it." Luckily, that was a lie. Luckily, that was a joke. But I was like, "Christian, are you trying to kill me?" That was pretty funny.
Dog, that shows you how much you were actually hungry.
I was! We just got back from a show. I was like, even though we ate a whole ton afterwards, I was still hungry. I was still going.
I love it. I have 2 stories, actually. The first story that came to mind was, I was thinking because I saw Andy's ducks in the background of his picture, and we actually, and I didn't think of this when Andy and I were talking about it last week about ducks, like rubber ducks. We actually, one of the mellophone players had like so many random rubber ducks, like had like hats on them, or they had like a certain color on them, or just like random like sizes. Like it was just really funny. And so I love it. And so I remember that he gave every section a rubber duck. And so whenever we had full ensemble, we would have a rubber duck with us, and we would put it somewhere. So like the drum majors, we would have a rubber duck on our stand, just watching the crowd, and then it was just like a lot of fun. And I just love that we were able to like do something so small, but to make us just smile while we were, toughing it out. It was just really fun. And the second story I have, yes, it's the little things. The second story I have, I'm pretty sure every corps does this, but we have our corps song, and I feel like, I don't know why, but our song was It Is Well, and it impacted me in so many ways. And I think the reason why I looked at it in such a positive way is because we would always sing it every single day, completely, like we would play it sometimes, but we would mostly just sing it a cappella. And we would just come together at the end of a day and circle up, hold hands, whatever, and we would sing it. And it was just kind of like a place for us to just wash away all of like the negative things that were going on, whether it be in our own individual lives or maybe some hard stuff from the day, like things we couldn't overcome. And it's just, you come together as a group, as a family, and you just sing. And I think that was like one of my favorite parts of doing that. I actually have It As Well tattooed on my arm, and it kind of just reminds me of like that time that I had. And going along with that, we actually, my last year, which was 2018, maybe 2019, couldn't remember, we had tons of people that were close to our corps pass away. like a lot of people, their dads were passing away, a lot of people, their moms were passing away, and actually one of our volunteers, we found out that he had someone from the Corps pick him up to, for him to volunteer, and the guy, like, found him dead, like, at his house. And it was awful. Like, he apparently, like, had a heart attack, and he was just such a ray of sunshine to us, and he always would give you a hug when you walked in, and he made you feel better. Like, even if you had a rough day, he'd be like, hey, like, you're doing a good job, and he was just such an amazing person. And so we had all of that happen in that one year, so, like, it as well was, like, our break to just, like, let go. And so, rest in peace to him. I miss him so much. Rest in peace to Merle. But yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of Drum Corps.
Yeah, wow, that is a good favorite parts for sure. I mean, obviously not the passing away, but yeah, and that happens too. That happened with me. We had unexpected deaths, and dealing with that and grieving as a Corps, that's always that's very unique. It's unique to each Corps. Also with the Corps song, like, that's part of, like, what made ours so special to me, is that we didn't sing it a lot. And that's so fun. It's so funny because I know everyone who's in a Corps where they sing it every day or they sing it a lot, they love that they do that. And I know everybody that's in Corps where they don't sing it or play it a lot, they like that. And I was at that camp, and I, like, can't even, like, I, like, struggle to cry. Like, I could be at, like, a funeral for someone, like, I very much love, and I can't. I'm not, like, too macho of a man to cry. Like, I'm standing there, I'm like, I feel so awkward because I can't cry right now. Like, I'm so sad and I can't cry. And one thing that even think about it right now, like, I'm, like, about to, like, maybe start crying about our Corps song. Like, I don't even, like, no one back home, like, even knows it, because I'm afraid, like, someone's gonna play it as, like, a joke or something, and, like, it just, like, it means, like, so much to me. And I have, like, a voice recording on my phone. I haven't even gone back and listened to it, but of the first time we played it when I was drum major in 2019, and me and Jack had like, a heck of a week, and it was, like, really stressful, and there's things going on, and the horn line, it was my first time listening to it. I had never listened to the Corps song. I had always been playing it, and I just got to sit and listen, and it sounded pretty good, and I have a voice memo of it so I could, like, send it to the brass people, and I had to clip it at the end because right as it ended, I started, like, sobbing. Like, I was just, like, laying on the floor, like, sobbing, because it, like, encapsulates, yeah, I mean, Madison's right, like, it encapsulates, like, everything that's going on with you at the moment. So, definitely a very important and positive part of the Drum Corps experience. Another, like, quick, like, fun but, like, not so positive thing is, I mentioned this last podcast, if you haven't listened to that, but it rained spiders on us in spring training in 17. It rained baby spiders from a nearby forest onto us, so be sure you check that out if you haven't listened to that episode. That's about, like, halfway through the episode. And just a quick fun tour story, and I know Milo has one as well. We were in a very small town in Tennessee called Oneida, Tennessee, and there was a little dog running around, and we, like, posted in their town Facebook group, and we're like, whose dog is this, like, this, that, and the other, and we named him Sid, and he would follow us. We had to walk, like, up the street to the field, where the fields were. We had to walk, like, 5 blocks, and he would follow us to block, and he would sit on the sidelines during block, and he would, like, watch us, and, like, during water breaks, like, he'd come up and we would pet him, and we, like, contacted the town police and, like, the mayor. I mean, this was, like, a very small town, and our director was basically like, if this is a stray, like, we can take him with us. So we were about to have a dog for tour in 17. But the last day, the owner came to the school, and it was a guy, super nice guy, but he was just a guy that kind of, like, kept to himself. Everyone in the town knew him, but, like, he just kind of kept to himself. He's like, hey, that's my dog. He's like, I actually meant to get him chipped, and then he normally just wanders around this town. Like, that's how small his town is. And he's like, now that this has happened, like, I will get him chipped. Sorry for the confusion. Sorry you can't take this dog with you. And he's like, was he a good dog? And we were like, he was the best dog. And so we always miss Sid. That town was so small, they came to our full ensemble the one night and, like, they were cheering after, like, practice reps, and then we did the full run, and they were, like, quiet for, like, 5 seconds and then blew up. And the show was an hour away from their town. I kid you not, like, over half the town drove an hour so we were in Tennessee and we had like a home team crowd, like the stands, like we could just tell like who was there from Oneida, and like we got on the field and woo, and so little things like that. Yeah, just like both Madison and Milo said, it's little things. Milo.
I have two. I have a sort of deep one and a funny one. The first one is the sort of deep one. I'll do that one first. About like listening to songs and feeling like an emotional connection to a song. One of the first times I really felt that emotion was my first family day, 2019. The A-Corps, we did this show and tell where we decided to, play little bits of like either lot tunes or like show chunks for each other for the different A, B, and C corps. And the A-Corps played Space Chords into A House Is Not a Home, which is from 2011. And it was the ballad. That's the title of the ballad. And just thinking about it now, I'm getting all like, oh my gosh. When I heard that, it was a surprise to me. I didn't know they were going to play it. And it was the first time they had played it that season. And I was like, gosh, like, this is my first family day. I'm home. That was a really emotional experience for me. And if you go and look at that video, it's somewhere on YouTube. You can actually see me sitting in the center of the circle. I've got my uniform on and everything. And as it starts and the hit goes, you can see me bury my face into my hands because I'm just bawling. But, I mean, it's things like that, when the song connects to where you are and what you're feeling at that moment, it means a lot to you. And that ballad means a lot to me now, 100%. The funny story. Vanguard Cadets and BDB went together to Six Flags. We did like a little standstill performance there. And they had like signs up for our performance so that people could come and watch. And Six Flags had one sign up. And it said, Van, space, guard, space, drum, space, cadets. And it was the most hilarious thing. All of us, like, we lost it. Because it didn't say anything else. It just said, like, the time or something. Vanguard Drum Cadets. Yes, that is Vanguard Drum Cadets.
It didn't even say Blue Devils B. It just said
Vanguard Drum Cadets. I will send you a picture of it. But it was in red. It just said Vanguard Drum Cadets. Because they obviously don't know what DCI is, which is okay. That's totally fine. But we thought it was hilarious.
Did people
they
show
did. We had a bunch of people. It was people like roaming around the park and stuff like that stopped to come watch us. BDB did theirs first, and then it was Vanguard Cadets. It was super cool. We got to see each other's show and like hype each other up, and after that we spent lots of time together, like on the rides and stuff like that. I got to hang out with some of the drum majors, so that was super cool, and that was a really enjoyable experience for me.
That is awesome. That is like, yeah. That's also like that is the stuff you remember. Like stuff like that. Like even when you're in the midst of rehearsal, we've all been complaining about rehearsal the whole time. Like when you're in that horrible, no good, rotten block and you're like in agony, you're not truly in agony, but you're like, I hate this. Like you don't remember that. That's not, I've heard someone compare it to childbirth. Like why do women go through childbirth and they're like, oh, I want another kid? Like, why do people do DCI and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for November to go try out? Like it really, like, and I'm not a woman, so I can't speak to that, but like, I've heard it's a pretty decent comparison, and it's true. But like, that's the stuff you remember. Like, yeah, getting spiders rained on you, going to Six Flags and having a wrong sign, only eating sandwiches. I talked about this at our summer leadership camp too, like breaking $2,000 worth of armor at Love's. Even we didn't really break it, but cool, fun, quirky stuff like that, like, is what you remember. And probably one of the most like profound things that was ever said to me was like, of basically like a super vet of the activity itself. Our visual caption head at the time, Lindsay Schuler, she's with Crusader, she's with Crown, she's like literally a genius, like literally one of the best educators in the marching arts. And it was like week 2, and she came out and she was sipping coffee. She's like, yep. She's like, this is around the time where, you know when you go to the zoo and you see the animals and you're like, I feel so bad that they're locked in there. She's like, well, you guys are the animals, and now you're going to start looking out at the people and saying, they're the ones locked out there because they're in society. I just wake up and eat and shower and do band, and they have the world.
Andy, you have the most interesting analogies I've ever heard.
Hey, that's not mine. I gotta give credit to Lindsay Schuler for that one. But it's true. Like, it's like when you are like fully like engaged, like you like just common human behavior just goes away. Like it truly does.
100%.
Hey, wow, we're already. Yeah, no, seriously, yeah, we're already 40 minutes in.
Oh yeah, one last thing. I just wanted to wrap it up with, it really is the little things. It's the ants at the housing site. It's the little grass seeds, the spiky grass seeds at Mars that get stuck to your pants. It's all of these little things that make up your experience that you'll remember for years. It's really incredible, and drum corps is so much fun and so many memories that you get to make with so many great people.
Yeah, it's just. It is, and that's the funny thing too, is you'll hear people just complain or say like not negative stuff about it, but not so kind stuff about the activity all day long, and then at the end ask any one of them like, would you do it again? And the people that say no probably like had something happen, or maybe it wasn't for them, but like all three of us on this call can unequivocally say, no questions asked, like, we love this activity. I can say now that I'm like removed from it for a couple years, like it changed my life for the better. I wasn't a bad kid or anything, but it gave me what I needed, like beyond the sphere of the marching arts. And that's, I was so thankful. I didn't even know I was going to be getting that joining them. Any last thoughts? Let's end with something light and funny and airy. Favorite bus snack or tour snack, and then just any last words you have, last couple sentences. Like I said, I'm springing this on them, so lots of the gears are
CheezIts.
I can see the top.
CheezIts, Goldfish, like cheesy crackers, anything like that. Definitely. It's like if you're having sweets from the gas station or like a soda or something. I was lucky enough to have a cup holder because I had the front seat with the nice table. But it'll be anything that'll like cleanse your palate from something you've been eating for a while. And it's like something you can rely on. Something salty if you're like getting lightheaded. It's just, it's a very good staple snack. Something salty, something cheesy.
And they hold well in the bus too. That was always a pro tip about the cheeses and stuff, and the Goldfish they always kept.
I would have to say Chex Mix. I'm a big Chex Mix person. Always cheddar and Gatorade. Those are my favorite. But kind of to add on to wrapping up and everything with what Milo was saying, I feel like a lot of people, like you said, Andy, can look at it in a negative way. For me, like, I love DCA, but I don't think I would go back just because I did it for 2 years and then I wasn't growing anymore. And I think that was like where I was at, and so I wasn't really being pushed in my realm. And so I think that's why I think I would rather have a different experience. I still have one more year for DCI, so I could definitely try out for that. I'm thinking maybe Blue Knights. You never know. Blue Knights, call me up. I'm just kidding. But I think it's something that if you're looking to be challenged, if you're looking to really have a family that you can always have that memory and go back to, people that you can always talk to maybe go, because you've been through so many things with them, they know that they're always going to have your back. And so I think that's like one thing to really think about it if you're thinking about doing drum corps. You're always going to have family, you're going to be challenged, but it's so worth it because it's something that you love to do. Like I said, it might not be for everyone, but for me with DCA, I loved it, but I have to be pushed more. And I think that's like what you have to be honest with yourself about. But yeah. Oh, fun
Drum
story.
course oh,
Sorry.
sorry, go ahead.
Of the it's okay. Of the like cuz you mentioned the snack thing from gas station. Fun story. One time I on our way to finals, I was feeling really sick. Like my ears were like stopping up and like my throat was just like really achy. And so I was like, okay, I need to get some medicine at this next gas station. Well, your girl didn't know that you have to be 18 to buy like freaking cough medicine. And so I was like, I think 17 at the time. And I was like, I went up to the cash register and I was like, hey, I need to buy this. I don't know what it was. I think it was like Robitussin or something. And the guy was like, I need to see your ID. And I was like, for what? And he goes, you have to be 18 to buy cough medicine. And I was like, oh, that's so embarrassing. And so I had to get my core director to buy me cough medicine. And it was so funny and so awkward. But I was like, I need it. Like, I'm going to be sick. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is quite ideal. Milo, did you have something to add within there?
I forgot.
That's totally okay. I would say my favorite was definitely because we could pound some snacks at Legends. I mean, I don't know about, I'm sure, it's all, what the heck am I talking about? Yeah, every core can. It's young kids just doing cardio for 12 hours a day. Yeah, you can pound. I was tracking it my one year, like, just for reference for people who are listening, like, I was eating like 3,500 to 4,000 calories a day, and I was still losing like 20 pounds a season. Like, that's how much work you're doing. It really is like that absurd. But we would always get like the 5-pound bags of like Sour Patch Kids. And I wouldn't say that's like the most ideal bus snack, but it was always good because that you can always pass around and it makes everybody happy when, if someone's having like a poopy day or something and you're passing the 5-pound bag of Sour Patch Kids around the bus and it gets back to them, they're like, oh, I guess I can stop pouting for a second and eat some of these Sour Patch Kids, And then I would get mercilessly bullied, not even made fun of, like just straight up bullied for this, but I would always buy cases of LaCroix. And so that was like nice, like after a show, it'd be like nice and cold because of for people who are listening, Madison is poo-pooing on me right now. Yeah, exactly. See, I'm being bullied right now about it. And I could take it, like it wasn't that big a deal or anything, but it was always nice, like after a show, it'd be nice and cold, and you get out of your yucky uniform, and then you just crack a cold LaCroix, and I could just, oh my gosh, it was pure bliss. I guess the last thing to say is, and I'm sure, I hope this isn't like a broken record for people who are listening, if someone in your life is saying this to you, but like, literally, like, just go audition. Like, that is honestly like the best advice I could give to like someone who's interested in drum corps. Like, I remember I was in 2016, I was in Hamilton, Ohio, and I saw a show, Crossman 2016, one of my favorite shows of all time, Blue Coats, Carolina Crown, great year for shows. Came home, said to my parents, I want to do this, they said, and I'm very fortunate that my parents' reaction was, okay, how can we help? And then I talked to my band director about it, and he said, you should go do it. And the whole time I was doubting myself, and then my one director was like, well, what are you going to do if you get contracted? And I was like, I'm not going to get contracted. And then I got contracted, and then I did it. I did the thing, and like, I never would have gotten to that point if I didn't, get help from others, get opinions from others, and then ultimately just go and do it. So seriously, if you even have an inkling, like, people go to try out for the first audition camp and leave, and they're like, I'm glad I did that. I hate DCI. I will never do this. I'm very glad to sit in the stands for the rest of my life. So you're never gonna know if you don't go. That's honestly like the best advice that, and honestly probably all three of us could give for someone starting out. Just go.
And don't doubt yourself. I mean, it might look like it on the outside, it might look like it from Lucas Oil, but people in DCI aren't gods. People in DCI are not, they aren't perfect 100% godly beings. They're human, just like you and me. Like, I'm in drum corps, I make mistakes. Everybody does. It's how you come from that mistake.
Yep.
And it's the growth and everything from that season that just, it makes you so great as a performer. But really, don't doubt yourself too much. If you have an opportunity to take a shot, take it.
Absolutely. And with that, we are out of time. How time flies when you're having fun. Wow, thanks a lot for this episode, guys. That was great. Good discussion. I hope everyone listening, I hope you guys have some insight into, we have 3 different East Coast, Midwest experience, DCA, and a Western experience, but I hope you can also see the similarities we all have, it's drum corps is drum corps is drum corps, for sure. Thank you all so much for listening. We will see you all in 2 weeks for our next episode, and I hope you're all having a good summer, and I hope you go out for drum corps next year when hopefully things are a bit more normal. Thank you so much for listening, and like I said, 2 weeks time, we'll see you again. Thanks a lot, everybody.